That's number one. You kind of reset.
Painful, tender to the touch. May also
Same shoulder length, and the other. Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Real Health Podcast with Brandy and Amir. I am Dr. Amir Rashidin, a chiropractor, and Brandy is the better half of the podcast, of my life, our family, and everything else.
I pay him big bucks to say those things.
Sure. Well, yeah. I mean, I pay you in other things. Neither of us get paid. But we get paid, but we get paid after everybody else gets paid. Keep that in mind if you want to start a business.
That's right.
You get paid last. They say pay yourself first, but I think that's for one-man show type of deal.
I think
you own a business with employees. How many employees do we have? 10? About 10 employees. And everybody else gets paid, and then we get paid. But
good thing this isn't about finances.
that's right.
This is a podcast
it's about
health.
health. And Real Health Podcast is where we take all the latest news in mainstream media, whatever you see in newspapers, magazines, and so on TV. And what we want to do is summarize it for you and explain what it means and how you should interpret that information. We try to take out some of the bias that they put into it, and we put in our own bias from a wellness and health and prevention standpoint, non-surgical, non-drug methods. Then our focus is to help you feel better, get stronger, live longer, and feel younger.
Yep.
And as you can tell, we've been getting younger ever since we started the podcast.
I know it's a little scary, isn't it?
We're in our second year of the podcast. It's been going good. And special thanks to Sean for hanging in with us all this time.
Airbrushing us? No, he
yeah,
doesn't airbrush us.
That's right. He's the reason we look so good.
Well, that is true.
We sound good. We look good. So anyways, the Olympics are going on.
Yeah, we've been watching some of that. I love actually when the kids are home now. Our middle, he goes and puts on the Olympics, and he loves to like run up and give me a play-by-play on what's going on. So he was watching some men's volleyball yesterday. And
that's great.
Got to see U.S. Guys win, which was fun.
It's the ultimate competition. Someone dedicates their life
Yeah.
to getting up on that stage, and then everything depends on a moment.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that moment could go in a dozen different ways.
Yeah.
And it determines their future. It's just, it's incredible.
Yeah, it was funny. I'm not on social media very much, but I saw one of our old friends actually ran into Michael Phelps and got a picture with him, one of our chiropractor friends. And so that was really,
Nice.
neat to see. Yeah.
Yeah, I think he still has the record, right?
I think
for
so.
the most medals in the Olympics.
Yep, so far.
So, what I was encouraged by was that there are at least 2 commercials where they showed chiropractic
I know.
in the commercial with athletes.
Yeah.
And one was Giannis from the Milwaukee Bucks, the basketball player. And he's basically, the whole commercial, you might have seen it, he's basically just getting adjusted by a chiropractor the whole time. And he goes, all the athletes do everything and whatever it takes to get better,
right?
But I do more. And he's referring to chiropractic, which is really nice.
It is. And I think that most people probably do not realize that professional athletes, the majority of them have a chiropractor on their team. They know they can't do it, without them. And it's so funny because we became the team chiropractor for Frederick's new expansion TBL team, the Frederick Flying Cows. So we're their team chiropractor, and to see what they're reporting back to us going, man, this really changed my game. I didn't realize, so to hear those athletes go, this by far has been the one thing that has been a game changer for us. It's
I had
really
an
neat to
athlete,
see.
he's a Division I lacrosse player who came in yesterday. And like I said, we see a lot of student athletes and college athletes as well as professionals. And so I'm doing his neurologic tests, and everything on the right side of his body is weaker than the left side. Everything. So I have him close his eyes and touch his nose, and he keeps missing with the right hand.
Right.
I had him march in place, and he turned all the way to the right within 20 seconds. So just imagine the kind of imbalance that person has. And so I asked him a question. I said, most people, I don't think anybody's ever gotten the answer right. I said, every athlete needs these things: flexibility, strength, and speed. But what's the most important one outside of those 3? Because those 3 are nowhere close to as important as this one thing. And the answer is coordination.
Yeah.
How coordinated you are determines how well you use your strength, your speed, and your flexibility.
100%.
If you're not coordinated, you can be strongest, fastest. You're not going to get as far as you would have. Obviously, there's mindset and mental fortitude that goes into it.
Right.
But if you're a Division I athlete, God bless you, because you literally have a full-time job
Yes.
of many hours a week just being the athlete, plus you're taking a full load of schoolwork.
Yeah.
And it's not easy being in college. So anyways, but thanks to all the athletes.
Yeah.
I'm one of those people who doesn't mind that athletes get paid a lot of money.
Yeah, same. I'm really excited. Be paying attention, because in just a couple of weeks, we're going to shift our focus from, general health and wellness and some of our general news topics to really focusing in on athletes and student athletes. We're going to have some unbelievable guests on our show too. So if you're an athlete, if you have student athletes in your household, if your grandchild is a student athlete, these are podcasts coming up you will not want to miss. There's going to be such valuable information regarding their health and helping them, with their performance and whatnot. So do not miss those. It's going to be so much fun. So, and I'm really excited about some of our guests. So
Absolutely.
some of them will be local names that you guys may know.
That's right. And hopefully you enjoyed Dr. Keppel's 2 episodes.
Yeah.
They were a couple of podcasts ago, but we got some good feedback on those.
I know it's going to be something really, really bad,
Yeah.
right? Because you can tell.
yeah.
So we're one body with physiology.
So let's jump right in. Our first article here is from Harvard School of Public Health, Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health. The title says, "Toxins in tampons suggest need for FDA testing," says expert. Now, we had multiple patients
Yes.
and podcast viewers call or come to us and say, please report on this and tell us what our options are, because this seems like a big problem.
Yeah. This was mind-blowing to me too. I was already aware that, with a lot of feminine hygiene products, they're bleached and whatnot, which that alone is an issue and can be carcinogenic and have other health concerns. But I had no idea about some of the heavy metals that are.
I didn't either.
Yeah.
I was shocked.
And this again, I just, we're going to use that 3-letter acronym, and we're all going to shake our head and we should point our finger again, because the FDA is not doing their job. I mean, it's just ridiculous that the FDA is allowing these kinds of things to happen. And then on top of it, instead of going, let's deal with this immediately, they're like, maybe more studies need to be done to see how much is actually absorbed. And they've done some preliminary checks to, check bloodstream, to check heavy metals in the bloodstream. But then I go back to what Robert Kennedy had talked about in some of his commentary on vaccines and like heavy metals, mercury and whatnot being in those. And early on, he had been talking to one of the developers of a vaccine and saying, hey, we know that high levels of this, you may not even see it in the bloodstream because it's already gone to the brain. And
yeah, well, that was the argument. They said this type of mercury leaves the blood very quickly, so it's not toxic.
Right.
Because when they tested the blood, it didn't have as much of the mercury as the other kind of mercury that they were putting in. And so they said this is safe. Then they did another study. They found out, well, the reason it's not in the blood is because it had gone into the brain.
Right. So I go, now when they just go, well, we tested the blood and, we didn't see high levels. I go, well, maybe we need some further testing, because we know that there are some heavy metals that, like you said, will leave the bloodstream but can be found in the brain, which if they can pass the blood-brain barrier, that's pretty scary. So here we go. July 23rd, 2024, in light of new findings that multiple tampon brands contain toxins like lead, arsenic, the FDA should consider stricter monitoring of tampons and other menstrual products. There's a professor of environmental, reproductive, and women's health in the Department of Environmental Health. I am going to butcher her name. We'll call her Dr. Shruthi because I'm not going to even attempt her last name. She was not involved directly in the study in which researchers tested 30 tampons from 14 popular brands in the US and Europe for toxins including arsenic, cobalt, copper, iron, mercury, nickel, lead, and zinc. The study published in Environmental International on June 22nd found that every single tampon contained some level of toxins. She said, I believe it would be prudent, I believe that a prudent FDA would require product testing and ongoing surveillance for tampons for not only toxic metals, but also other potentially harmful substances. She said on July 11th.
Mahalingaya.
Yeah, there you go.
Dr. Mahalingaya.
She said that it is possible that tampons may be recalled, but no one wants arsenic, mercury, lead exposure to their organs. So she's saying they should be recalled. Maybe they will be recalled, but then I've heard on several news articles, don't freak out yet. And I'm like, well, I think now is the time to freak out a little bit and probably step back. Just because we don't know what the absorption level is doesn't mean that we should just move forward. I think would be prudent to pull back from that and go, maybe this isn't a good time to be using those. Given past research that found toxins in period underwear and in packaging for tampons and pads, she said that other menstrual products should also undergo federal testing and surveillance. So in the past, some of the period underwear, which already have like an absorbent pad included with it, those found toxins. The packaging itself that tampons and pads are packaged in are also containing some of those toxins, and we're not sure if it can get into the product or not. And so there's only a couple of things that are recommended. One is a cup, and I think it's like a silicone cup that they recommend. That is, I think, one of two products that they say is a good alternative, that there hasn't been any kind of toxin, found in that. So
Interesting. Is that similar to the contraceptive cup?
that's a great question. I think it's a little bit different, but we can look that up. Now, I will say there is a Senator Murray. She has been known to kind of press the FDA on some issues. And so she actually wrote a letter today, or she wrote a letter to the FDA requesting the agency to examine the findings of the recent study, which found the toxic metals in a variety of those tampon products. And she wants them to evaluate any necessary steps to ensure that tampon and menstrual products are safe for women. She said in her letter to the FDA, she emphasized the importance of ensuring the safety for products that women use more than 7,400 times over a lifetime. So she's like, this isn't a one and done type of thing. This is something that women are using over 7,000 times in their lifetime. And so the potential for a toxic buildup is great there. And she said, this is especially concerning for some of the heavy metals in the study, like lead, which has no safe exposure level. So like if you are selling a home prior to 1978 and you don't disclose that there could be lead in the paint or in the pipes in that house, you have the potential of getting your license taken away, right. of huge amounts of fines and possibly losing your license for multiple offenses. So we don't even want a person to move into a house that could potentially have lead in the paint or in the pipes.
Lead and mercury, even a molecule of it.
Right. But here
is bad.
We're going, it's probably, let's not freak out. Okay, if you have listened to a journalist who has no medical background that goes, don't freak out yet, I would probably not listen to them.
Besides, lead accumulates in your body.
Right.
You don't get rid of it. It goes in, it stays, and then more and more and more and more.
Right. There are some metals that the body can process through, right?
Yeah.
But there are a lot of them that the body cannot process, and so it's just going to stay in.
I
and build
remember
up.
in Iran, they didn't switch to unleaded gasoline for a long time. and the particles of lead that were in the air that people were breathing were through the roof, really high. And in Tehran, the capital of Iran, half the people had kidney failure.
Oh my God.
I mean, just an enormous, I don't know if it was exactly half, but it was a lot.
It was-
A lot of people had kidney failure. And finally, they said, we need to get the cars that only run on leaded gasoline off the roads.
So crazy.
And put the catalytic converters on and so on. So there was a big overhaul of cars. In fact, it got so bad that they would say on odd numbered days of the calendar, you can only drive your car if your license plate ends with an odd number and even so they could keep half the cars off the road.
Right.
So everybody wouldn't drive. I mean,
Wow.
it was really bad.
Well, and we can't even keep it out of our tampons.
There you go.
I mean, crazy.
There you go. I mean, that's something you breathe in. This is something that potentially is in
Right.
contact with your bloodstream.
Right. Senator Murray has a long history of demanding accountability and careful oversight when it comes to the safety of products women and families use every day. Recently, Senator Murray passed legislation giving the FDA new authority to, for the first time ever, regulate the safety of cosmetic products and force a recall when necessary. And I'm laughing inside. I don't know if you guys are laughing with me. I'm not sure when that got passed, but I'm going to tell you, they haven't done anything in the past. So I don't know what makes us think this new legislation is actually giving them the authority to do it. The ability to carry it out is a whole other conversation.
Yep.
It says, let's see, Senator Murray has also previously pressed the FDA and industry for answers and action regarding, okay, are you guys ready for this? Regarding asbestos in children's makeup kits, demanding answers from Johnson & Johnson regarding asbestos found in baby powder. That's the stuff you put on your infant. And also a leading voice in holding the FDA accountable for pushing for solutions following the infant formula contamination and shortage crisis in 2022. So I don't know if you guys caught that, but having these heavy metals in tampon products or feminine hygiene products is not all that we're not hearing about, right? How many of you guys heard about asbestos in makeup kits for
Right.
children? How many of you guys heard about asbestos in baby powder, in Johnson's & Johnson's baby powder, which has been on the market for how long? I'm just floored that our country
Yeah. And
does not care.
if they're making it, that means they're putting it in there. If they're putting it in there, it's intentional.
Correct.
So how is
well,
it they get away
could
with
be
this?
cross-contamination, which I'm sure is what most of them will blame it on. But then you have products in your environment that carry asbestos, and instead of creating a clean environment for these other products, like, I don't know why we have asbestos in anything. I wonder if anybody could answer that. Johnson & Johnson, what are you putting asbestos in? Like,
Right.
I thought that, again, in a housing market, that's a safety issue.
Mm-hmm.
So I just don't understand. I don't understand why it's so hard for our country to protect our people from these contaminants. These are big industry that are poisoning our people.
It's going to be the next daytime TV commercial. You know how the attorneys advertise during daytime TV? They all talk about, hey, if you've been exposed to asbestos, call us. We'll get you money.
Yeah.
Join this class action suit. They're going to start those. And that's a whole other issue. But I think attorneys make everything complicated.
Yeah, it does. So, ladies, you do some research. Look up your menstrual cups instead of
Yeah, so
your
that's
tampons.
the only option right now.
Right
You
now.
think the
Yeah, I mean, others said maybe a period underwear, but we know that those could be toxic as well. I mean, we've done
but
other
it's further away from the bloodstream.
correct, because it's not internal.
Yeah.
Right. So that probably
So
helps.
even if it is toxic, it's less likely to get into the bloodstream.
but it's still on your skin.
It is, yeah.
And your skin
your
is
skin absorbs just as much as
It's your
blood
largest
and-
organ. So
Very true.
be careful, ladies.
Yeah, and then of course we like the EWG.
Yeah, always
website.
ewg.org is gonna give you some of that information. They did notate in a couple of I listened to a couple of the news articles as well and read a few others, just to kind of see if there was anything that we were missing. They did mention that there are some organic brands also that still had some levels of some of those metals in it as well. So, and I've always said this, just because something says organic on it doesn't mean that it's 100% safe. And so because we know the FDA is not regulating these things, you have to do your due diligence, do your research. And ewg.org is an unbelievable nonprofit that they don't stand to gain from you using the product or not using the product. And so those are the people you want to search out for information on what's in it, what the risk factor is, and then make an informed decision, because nobody else is looking out for you. I mean, we're looking out for you, but they're not looking out for you. So just know that.
Yeah, it's hilarious what the things the FDA will approve, like lead and mercury and copper and cobalt and whatever else, but then they won't approve vitamin C, true vitamin C for periodontitis.
Yeah,
Or
they're loving the studies on using LSD. That's right, I just said it. LSD for treating some
anxiety.
psychological disorders. But we're worried about, like you said, vitamin C, vitamin D, like things like that. We're worried about
Be
fish
careful.
oil.
Those are not approved by the FDA. You know
Oh
what?
my
More
gosh.
and more, I am thinking that's actually a good thing. If I see something that's not approved by the FDA, I'm much more likely to take it.
Right. When they go not made for human consumption, I go, I don't
Yeah,
know.
only for laboratory rats and bodybuilders.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. I'm sure that's one thing we'll be diving into. So
Oh,
we'll be talking
100%.
about that
Yeah, if you
in
guys like
August, September.
bodybuilding, and that doesn't mean you have to be Mr. Olympia, but there's nothing wrong with sculpting your body and
No.
being proud of what you have. So, anyways, next article: blood pressure medications linked to eczema. How strange is that? I mean, you would think heart medication would be totally separate from your skin, but we always say everything is connected.
Everything is
And
connected.
everything affects everything else. And so they're finding it out.
Well,
So
it's actually
it
not a big
says
surprise. Do you remember your mom was on a blood pressure medication?
she was on cholesterol medication.
Oh, it was a cholesterol.
Yeah.
Okay, for like a week. And she developed a cough that
Yeah, it
was
lasted 2 years.
so bad. It
Yeah.
sounded like she'd been a smoker for 20
Yeah.
years.
Oh, yeah.
And it took 2 years to get rid of it, which was nuts.
Yeah. And we had a
So-
friend recently who had a cough. And I said, "Are you taking cholesterol medication?" And she stopped. And the cough is 50% of what it was.
Yeah.
But if it takes 2 years for it to come out of your system, and she's got a little while to go still.
Yeah.
We were hanging out with them at the lake. Hello, if you're watching. So this is, it says blood pressure medications can have a range of side effects. Why do they say can?
How about
And why do they call it side?
they're
It's
just
effects, right? Every drug has multiple effects. There's one that's a desired effect, and there's a few that are undesired effects. Sometimes there's many that are undesired. Why don't we say it that way? Why do we say side effect instead of undesired effects? Either way, a new study of adults 60 and older has found a link between starting blood pressure medication for hypertension and an increased risk of developing eczema, a condition characterized by dry, itchy, inflamed skin that may weep liquid.
I love how they describe things. They make it sound so nice. It's just your skin might weep a little bit.
Weep.
Yeah.
Weird. Anyways, oh, by the way, this is an article from Everyday Health.
I guess that sounds better than ooze. Okay.
Scientists at the University of California in San Francisco analyzed data on over 1.5 million UK adults ages 60 and older without a diagnosis of eczematous dermatitis, eczema-related skin inflammation, at the start of the study. We found that blood pressure medications were associated with a small increase of rates of eczematous dermatitis, says Katrina Abuabara, medical doctor, senior study author, and an associate professor of dermatology at University of California, San Francisco. It's interesting. Why is University of California doing studies on British
That was
patients?
my first question too.
United Kingdom. I mean, Anyways, there has to be a reason. They should tell us what that reason is.
100%.
It's across the pond. The association was the largest for people taking diuretics and calcium channel blockers. They had a 16 to 24% higher risk of developing eczema. The smallest association was for ACE inhibitors and beta blockers,
Which has a side effect of skin rash, for the record. ACE
increase the
inhibitor
risk
says.
of developing eczema by 2 to 4%. So ACE inhibitors are angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitors. Basically, angiotensin causes constriction of blood vessels. So when they inhibit that, blood vessels don't constrict and blood can flow easier, pressure goes down. Beta blockers are actually beta adrenergic receptor blockers. What they do is reduce your probability of having a fight or flight response to anything. And that keeps your blood pressure from going up. Drug reactions are a common cause of eczema. This is Adam Friedman, another medical doctor, says the results are not strong enough to prove that high blood pressure medication causes eczema. While calcium channel blockers have been known for causing other reactions like lower leg swelling, Friedman says the UCSF study is the first to link medications with eczema. And the reason it causes lower leg swelling is because when blood vessels don't constrict as much, then some of the plasma leaks out of the blood in the capillaries and pools in your lower extremities, especially when you're upright for a while. And also, the heart strength goes down with a beta blocker because it's not pumping as hard, and it's not pulling the blood back up so it can pool in the lower extremities. In addition to blood pressure meds, drugs that modulate the immune system that are used for conditions like psoriasis, arthritis, and bowel disease, as well as antiviral medications and chemotherapies often cause eczematous drug rashes. I mean, that basically covers everything.
Right.
Everything can cause rash. Aging skin can be...
And I laugh about that because part of the reason people take medication for their psoriasis, and I will tell you probably the majority of the reason, is because of the skin lesions that they have. So you're trading those particular lesions for others. It just doesn't make sense, does it?
No one's worried about the cause.
No.
So they're saying that some of these people who take this medication are older, and when they're older, they're more susceptible to eczema anyways.
Or maybe they've just been on the medication so long they've ruined their gut.
It says eczema experienced by the subjects in this study may be related to aging. This may be related to anti-hypertensive medications because some of them make you more sensitive to the sun, and sunburns or sun injury damage the skin barrier. I mean, there's so much. I mean, oh my gosh. Can't we just lower the blood pressure naturally? And, blood pressure rise is a response to allostatic load.
Right.
So I'll give you an example. You put me on a treadmill, you tell me to run, and I have to run fast. Would you want my blood pressure to stay at like 120 over 70?
Heck no.
I'll pass out.
Right.
It should go up to, 200 over 120.
Right.
It should really go up. Would you say I have hypertension at that point because I'm running on a treadmill? It's ridiculous. So your blood pressure is controlled by your brain through the nervous system. The nerves connected to your brain tell the blood vessels to constrict and dilate. They tell the heart to beat fast or slow. They tell the heart to beat harder or softer. All of that is regulated and controlled. Now we're trying to throw chemicals into the body now listen. I know the attorneys are screaming right now, stop talking, because you're telling them to stop taking their medication. I'm not telling you to stop taking your medication. Keep taking your blood pressure medication.
But question the heck out of your doctor.
Yeah, but you know what? Here's what happens. Like, for example, in the case of beta blockers, you have these things called catecholamines that build up in the body during stress situations. Well, those are the ones that hit those beta adrenergic receptors that cause the blood pressure to go up. So when you block those receptors, the body keeps producing them. So they build up in your body. The minute you stop taking your beta blocker, all of them hit the receptors all at once, and your blood pressure skyrockets through the roof. And then your doctor goes, I told you, you can never stop taking them. So don't stop taking your medication because your blood pressure will shoot up to dangerous levels. And but there are functional medicine doctors you can talk to when you say, hey, my goal is to reduce the number of medications I'm on safely. Can I do it under your supervision? What are some options? How can I do this? But you know what? Your body needs to be more efficient. The more efficient your body becomes, the less your blood pressure needs to go up. So going for long walks, walking up some hills, breathing heavy, that stuff does in the long run make your body more efficient, lower your blood pressure little by little. And anyways, so moving on. If you take blood pressure medication and are worried about developing eczema, Friedman says managing hypertension should take priority. I guess he's right. Tell your doctor if you have eczema. It says you can certainly say I was started on this blood pressure medicine a couple months ago, and now I have this rash. Could it be connected? That's how patients can advocate for themselves, Dr. Friedman says. Now,
Just know, your doctor probably hasn't seen that study.
I guarantee you 99% of medical doctors, cardiologists, they haven't seen this study. And they're going to say, no, it's not related. Go get some cream, lotion, rub it on yourself. Prepare to hear that. Next one, New York Times. How to stay safe in extreme heat. We are in the dog days of summer.
We are,
You know,
and today is one of those.
That's right. I remember when we were starting our chiropractic office. Well, it was technically our second office. 2006, August. Brandy and I would dress up in suits. I would wear a tie, suit jacket, and we went door to door, knocking on doors. Now, you can't do that in the post-COVID era anymore. We'd knock on doors and talk to people because we didn't have a marketing budget. And we didn't know how to market any other way. So we're like, let's go meet as many people as we can. We knocked on 1,000 doors, met 1,000 individuals, and hand wrote 1,000 thank you notes. And then when we opened our office, a lot of those people came in and supported us and helped us to be successful. By the way, if you were one of those people we knocked on your door, thanks for opening and thank you for your hospitality. Most people were very nice.
Yeah. We got a few door slams, but not many.
Yeah. But, you know,
real characters.
They see people dressed up in suits wearing.
Just never know what you're going to get.
Yeah. They probably thought we were either FBI or some kind of religious cult or politicians. You know, back then, politicians went door to door.
Yeah.
That was election year.
That's true.
So a lot of people would open a door and go, what are you running for? We're like, I'm not running. Are you running?
I was walking very safely.
I'm sweating, but I wasn't running. Next study is from New York Times. Stay safe in extreme heat. The Northeast and Midwest are bracing for a major heat wave this week. With warmer temperatures comes greater potential for heat-related illness. Rates of emergency room visits for conditions related to heat rose substantially in many parts of the United States last summer, according to the CDC. See, these are all three-letter organizations that we are fans of.
Yeah.
Although, you know, it's so weird. No one listens to them either, it seems. They only use them when it benefits them. So they, CDC says this, but then CDC also said stop taking an aspirin a day.
Yeah, and
it's bad for you, and no one's paying attention to that. The CDC also stated, well, this is more the American Academy of Pediatrics, where they talk about not overprescribing antibiotics. We've read articles about that, and no one listens to that either.
I mean, they have a whole worldwide coalition now in reducing antibiotic use worldwide.
Whatever puts money in their pocket, they'll listen from the CDC and the FDA. And all the other three-letter organizations. Oh, gosh, the other two are on the news big time since the assassination attempt. So we won't talk about that because it's not health-related, although someone's ear got shot. Mild heat illnesses include heat rash, swelling in the hands and feet, muscle cramps, and heat syncope, or a fainting episode after standing too long or getting up suddenly. People with heat exhaustion have more severe symptoms, which could include headache, nausea, vomiting, dizziness. Heat exhaustion is the most common heat-related illness. And then there's heat stroke, which can be caused by exposure to extreme heat or strenuous exertion in high temperatures. it is less common but much more dangerous. The hallmark signs are a core body temperature above 104 degrees and confusion, seizures, or other mental status changes in the context of extreme heat exposure. The body's ability to cool itself is impaired, Dr. Atala said. The condition can lead to brain damage, muscle breakdown, and kidney failure. This doctor is an emergency room physician. And he continues to say, when those patients come into the emergency department, it's all hands on deck to get all the patients' clothes off, cool them down, and as quickly as possible. Give them IV fluids and any other kind of support. In extreme cases, patients experiencing heat stroke may require the support of a machine that takes over heart and lung functioning, said Dr. Jacqueline Bowers, Director of Emergency Services at Oxnard LSU Health System of North Louisiana. You know, one thing they don't mention and people need to know is that heat stroke is permanent.
Right.
Once you have a heat stroke, it's like that mechanism that warns you when you're about to have a heat stroke, it breaks and it doesn't repair. And so your chances of having more heat strokes or more heat exhaustion increase. So if you've had a heat stroke in the past, don't take any chances. You're out in the heat, just start a timer. Don't stay out too long. You start to sweat, you get warm, just go inside, come back out,
it's not
drink
worth
a
it.
lot of water. The best thing you can do is get into a cool environment and hydrate quickly. Take off layers or any restrictive clothing. If you're out on a hike or at the beach, find some shade or get in the water. You know, I always wondered. So I grew up in Iran.
Mm-hmm.
The central part of Iran is desert. And you see people, I didn't see people because I wasn't there. I grew up north, you know, because Iran has all the climates. Actually, some of the best skiing in the world is in Iran. People don't realize that. They have tropical climates and skiing, but the desert in the center. So people cross the desert on foot.
Mm-hmm.
And you never see them taking off layers. In fact, they have like a turban and long, and I always go, doesn't that make you hotter? But it's all white. They wear strictly white. I guess white reflects the sunlight. So why is that? Like, why are they covered head to toe, crossing a desert in extreme heat, 110, 120 degree temperatures?
I wonder if it has to do with I don't know, maybe it's the sweating component keeping the body cool from the water I don't know. That would be my
it's
guess.
interesting, you know, and then like, let's say you put a bunch of stuff in the back of your car, you're going on a long car ride.
Mm-hmm.
If you want it to stay warm, you cover it up with a blanket. If you want it to stay cold, you cover it up with a blanket also. But then it doesn't generate its own heat. The human body generates its own heat. So anyways, that's just my thought on crossing the desert, which we don't have to do here.
Yes,
unless you live in California, there's desert there. Arizona, New Mexico,
Less humid there,
there's
though.
some deserts there. So take off layers. Going deep in cold water is going to make you colder faster, said Dr. Jose Burgos, a hospitalist at University Medical Center of El Paso. Take a cold shower or cold bath and turn on a fan. If you're really dehydrated and feeling sick, Dr. Bauer said, sports drinks or water with salt tablets will help restore electrolytes like sodium that you lose by sweating and that are needed to maintain fluid balance. You know, I put a teaspoon of Himalayan pink salt in my water when I'm lifting weights.
Yeah.
It's
great
based on
stuff.
the instructions of the coach,
The coach.
Tommy. Minutes matter. If you have tried cooling down and drinking fluids, but the symptoms haven't improved in a half hour or are getting worse, go to the emergency room, Dr. Bowers said. Experts also said to seek immediate care if you or someone you know is having heat-related symptoms and is not able to get out of the heat, seems disoriented, or is having seizures. If heat stroke isn't recognized and treated quickly, it can cause deterioration rapidly within minutes, Dr. Bauer said. We really have to address this as the emergency that it is. So there's a lot more information here. Like children are particularly at risk in extreme heat. They tend to heat up faster, but they lack mechanisms to compensate because their systems are immature. They sweat less, for example, Dr. Campbell said, and they may not hydrate enough. They're having fun and they forget that they need to drink.
So parents and coaches, when you have the student athletes out, they need, I know we all know this, but drinking more is better than not. So,
Football practice starts this week for
yeah,
all high schools.
soccer practice
our-
starts next week.
Our son's buddy Eli is playing football,
Mm-hmm.
and he there are days he has to be there from 5:50 a.m. or something like that till like 12:30
Ugh, so hot.
outside with pads, helmet, just working.
Yeah,
That's good. It'll toughen him up. He's a tough guy to begin with.
he is.
Great wrestler.
Mm-hmm.
Older people are also at high risk. They are more likely to have chronic medical conditions like diabetes, kidney disease, and heart failure that interfere with the body's ability to regulate temperature and balance fluids. Dr.
They
Burgos.
could also be on medication that makes it hard for them to
Exactly.
manage those things. It's not just about the conditions.
That's
Sometimes
right.
it's the medications.
Treatment for some of these conditions, like blood pressure medications, can keep the heart rate down, or diuretics that clear fluid out of the body can impair the body's ability to compensate for extreme heat. People with depression or dementia may also not realize they're thirsty and forget to drink water.
Okay, so be cautious, people.
Yeah, please, because it is no joke. Heat exhaustion sounds like it's not that bad. Like, you just get tired in the heat. That's not it.
It's not.
Exhaustion means you have nothing left. You're exhausted.
Right.
You're about to pass out. And if you do allow yourself to get a heat stroke, like I said, it's permanent. So make sure you don't let that happen. It's serious stuff. So be very, very careful. We have a couple months of heat left, and then it's going to start cooling down. And so good show today.
Yeah.
And then we went over a few things like tampons, heat, blood pressure medication, and eczema.
Some good stuff.
So next time we will be talking about sleep. We will talk about some genetic stuff regarding Alzheimer's. That was pretty interesting. Let's talk about watermelons, because that is
love
a
watermelons.
summer food. And then we're going to
Drinking
answer
it in
the
my water.
question of whether it's worth paying the higher prices for organic foods.
I think that's a good question people really struggle with.
Yeah.
So
Because prices are going up.
they are
We are
on
in
everything.
inflation like never before.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. Bless you. And please join us again and share, like, subscribe, and help us to get the information out to more people. Because like I said, medical doctors don't know a lot of information we're sharing, and patients need to know this stuff.
Absolutely.
So take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Next time.